Hello, everybody. What's up? What's up, my Israelites? I want to talk to you today about the April 8th total solar eclipse of 2024 and how significant it is and how prophetic it is that many of us believe that it is certainly a sign from God, Yahweh. And there's I've seen several articles about this, even newspaper articles about the significance and even the biblical significance of the April 8th total solar eclipse. But I got this off of a site called touroftruth.com, and this site believes in the New Testament. I do not anymore. But I'm Old Testament only or Hebrew scriptures only. But this has fantastic information that is in harmony with the Hebrew scriptures, and so I find this part of it valuable. Um, so this article was written on February 13th, but it was updated again on February the 25th. Um, I don't see in anybody's name, author's name. Maybe later if I see it, I'll let you know. So, but this can be found on many sites, this information. Anyway, so check this out because I don't want people to go to sleep on this eclipse. It's don't forget about it because it's significant. Now, it's okay. This the April 8th, 2024 total solar eclipse. It on the Hebrew calendar on in the Hebrew calendar date. This was the first day of the month Nisan, which corresponds with April on the Gregorian calendar. So that's very significant because it's the first day of the Hebrew month of Nisan. Okay, so at sundown in Israel on April the 8th at approximately 11 a.m., Nisan 1 begins. So, and the eclipse is reported to be visible as a partial eclipse as it began its journey. It begins its journey across America at 11:42 a.m. Now, there's something significant that I found in that time, but I'll come back to that. Okay. So, it's also a time when Jews will be preparing for the Passover, a time full of imagery. And let me keep going. Let me see. Many people don't pay attention to the Hebrew calendar, but I believe the Hebrew calendar is God's calendar, as well as I do too. And you can find out a lot about it, and many things have happened on that Hebrew calendar that you will only know if you know the Hebrew calendar. Okay, the day of the eclipse is Nisan 1, which is historically the same day that Moses dedicated the tabernacle when the people of Israel were in the wilderness after leaving Egypt. Nisan 1 is also the ecclesiastical new year based on God's calendar, the date from which months and festivals are counted according to the scriptures. Okay, so it's very important in the Hebrew calendar. So okay, let me keep going. It's also worth mentioning that God took his nation of Israel out of Egypt during the month of Nisan. This reference will make more sense as you keep reading. Now keep note of this for those of you who know that the children of Israel are African Americans or the black people, the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, this has special significance. So um, the 2017 eclipse crossed America diagonally from northwest to southeast, but the upcoming eclipse will do the opposite, creating a crisscross over the land, essentially marking the nation. The last letter in the Hebrew alphabet is called a tav. It is a letter that can also be used as a sign, like our letter X. The Hebrew alphabet has evolved over the centuries, and back in the time of King David and Solomon, The letter Tav was drawn as an X. The meaning of Tav is mark or completion. Some people say it means judgment as well. Now, total solar eclipses were often seen as warnings of apocalypse by ancient cultures. In Genesis 1, chapter 1, verse 14, Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, God says that the sun and the moon were created for light and for signs. In Hebrew, it means a signal or flag. God has clearly said that he intends to give mankind signals using the sun and the moon. So for those, especially for those who are believers, take that very seriously, because God was giving signs then, and Yahweh, Almighty Yahweh, is giving signs now. Okay. Uh, it says here, I posted a blog I posted a blog on August the 15th, 2017, just 2 days before the Great American Solar Eclipse. That blog included some undeniable, call them, coincidences that do in fact line up with prophecy and biblical events. Why was it called the Great American Eclipse? Because it was the first total solar eclipse that was only visible in the U.S. Do you see the significance? It was only visible to a U.S. Is that God saying that this is a sign for the United States mainly? Is it a sign for the U.S. only? Now, in no other country since the country was founded in 1776. So, it was the first one that was only visible since 1776 when the country was founded, that was only visible in 1776. Now, while eclipses of this magnitude are rare occurrences, scientists tell us that if you stood in one place on Earth, you would have to wait approximately another 360 years to see another total eclipse. Yet here we are getting the sequel just 7 years from the 2017 total eclipse. The proximity of time defies the law of averages, and we should most certainly consider that this is a sign to us from our Creator God Elohim. So this is very powerful. So 7 years from 2017 is 2024. Seven is considered completion, very prophetic, very important in biblical years. And because normally it says that you would have to wait another 360 years. I've seen that several places to see another total solar eclipse. So this is out completely. In other words, don't miss the fact that the April 8th total solar eclipse was completely out of the norm, very unusual, which adds to its prophetic significance, according to many people. Now, and I like this part, let me emphasize, and we should most certainly consider that this is a sign to us from our Creator God, Elohim. There is an intersection between this year's eclipse and the one from 2017, the meeting of the two different paths across the United States, as if marking the center of a large X. It is precisely in the very same spot in Illinois where the complete eclipse of the sun will be repeated in the for the greatest length of time. So for the greatest length of time, where the eclipse was, the complete eclipse of the sun is right in the same spot in 2024, exactly in the same as it was in 2017. That cannot be an accident. According to NASA, the exact point where the 2017 and 2024 lines of totality cross is Cedar Lake in Jackson County, just a couple of miles south of Carbondale, Illinois. Okay, so now this significant place where the eclipses cross the path of totality, ironically, it is called Little Egypt. So right where the eclipses intersect, they cause an X. And in the center of that X, the dot where the X's meet is called Little Egypt. Let's go into it. Why is Southern Illinois called Little Egypt? Now, uh, there are many reasons for the name, and I saw this in newspaper articles too, preceded the April 8th eclipse. It's not just this article. Okay, there are many reasons for the name Little Egypt. First, there is a river system that is reminiscent of the Nile Valley. This is also an area where slavery was in place. That's amazing. Despite it being technically illegal in Illinois. Didn't I tell you that African Americans were slaves in that place? But the Bible said in Genesis 15. Let me keep going. I'm kidding. Okay, so now there are also several cities in the area named for ancient Egyptian places like Karnak, Cairo, and Thebes. In the mid 19th century, in the 1800s, there was a famine in northern Illinois, yet there was simultaneously a bountiful harvest in the southern part of Illinois. So the people in the north compared themselves to the children of Jacob, who in a time of famine were forced to go down to Egypt to seek food for their families. People from the northern Illinois said that the Carbondale region saved their lives because they provided grain, just like the Bible. Thus, Carbondale became known to this day as Little Egypt. What's the chances that without divine direction, that all these things could be just like Egypt, end up being named Little Egypt, and then the path of totality, the very center, marks a dot directly over this place where the Israelites were slaves, because didn't I tell you the African Americans are the Israelites of God? We're the children of God. Now, Little Egypt speaks to contemporary America as a notable sign, just as ancient Egypt did for the Jews throughout the ages. The unprecedented dual eclipses of this decade represent a remarkable link between the story of the original exile to Egypt and the X marks the spot, Little Egypt location in Illinois. So, okay, the number 400 plays a special role in the relationship between the sun and the moon. Now, listen, 400, as well as the number of years that were predicted for the Egyptian exile. Specific numbers are often recorded in the Bible, so we will recognize the symbolism. The number 400 is meant to alert us. Do you know who's been here enslaved and oppressed in this land? Just like in Genesis chapter 15. God, Yahweh, told Father Abraham that your descendants would be enslaved and oppressed in the land for 400 years. And also in Deuteronomy 28, chapter 28, I believe in verse 68, if I'm not mistaken, one of those verses, forgive me if I'm wrong, it says that the Israelites will go into Egypt again, but this time they will go in ships. Well, that happened before, and it happened again because the curses of Deuteronomy repeated themselves. We match that exactly, African Americans. That's found in Genesis 15, chapter 13. So, I tell you what, I'm going to stop there and come back and do a part two of this because there's so much information. But thanks for joining. Come back because I'm going to put it up. Now listen, this is very important because I want to show you something for people who don't know, and also something very important about the African Americans' history as well as being the Israelites. Peace and blessings to you.